Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. And we are looking at player props here on just a 4-game slate in the NBA, but pretty good value on a couple of these things as we look at the lineups here on Tuesday night. Definitely want to make sure to subscribe to that page. Continue to follow along. We also have best bets up in a separate video for you where we look at more sides and totals. Even took a quick look at some futures markets here as we get down the home stretch of this regular season. Also want you to head to thelines.com and use everything we have up on the site, including that prop finder tool to make sure you're getting the best odds available to you from all of these books that are giving us bets this season. Now, let's go ahead and run right into your first NBA player prop.
Yeah, I'm going to take a bit of a scary under, I suppose. Domantas Sabonis under 14.5 rebounds. But I mean, the line is 14.5. He is the leading rebounder in the NBA, but to average 15 is one thing. To do it every single night, especially on a back-to-back, is another. He's gone under this in 10 of 12 back-to-backs. He's gone under this in all 6 meetings with the Dallas Mavericks since he joined the Kings, averaging 11.7 rebounds. He's also been down in terms of assists against this Dallas team. And he's played a full 36 minutes per game in these games, so no blowout factor or anything. He averaged 11 rebounds per game his last 2 against Washington and Daniel Gafford, who, was still a part-time player. I mean, he'll be a part-time player with the Mavs. It's going to be Lively and Gafford tag teaming, fresh bodies thrown at Sabonis, keeping him off the boards, using the new points of emphasis from officiating to be allowed to be a little bit more physical with him. So, I mean, I expect him to have a fine game, scoring, maybe diming up, but not to get 15 rebounds. With this, the Mavs team improved on the interior. They're top 10 in terms of limiting paint points, limiting opponents' offensive rebounds. 4th fewest rebounds per game to centers in the last 15 for them. And since the All-Star break, they are number 2 in their contested defensive rebounds per game. So ferocious on that end. Only team higher is Denver, who, just for comparison, Domas is averaging also 12 rebounds his last 6 against Denver. And there's a huge rest advantage here that I'd talk about in best bets in terms of the last 7 days schedule for Dallas versus Kings. And in their last 4, Dallas as a team has the 3rd most contested rebounds. Kings have the 3rd fewest. And Domas, I mean, he's still high up there and among the league leaders, but it's a little bit of a drop off from what he was doing in terms of just eating glass every night. 13, 14 rebounds still gets you the under, but maybe it hits in a significant way here. We'll see how it plays out and if the Mavs can get this done on the money line as well.
Yep, interesting. I look, 14.5 is high. It's just so high. That's all I got. That's just too high. It's too high, man. I thought about taking an under for him the other day, and he got 14, and it was a 14.5 rebound prop that got bet up from 13.5 because there's some psycho degenerates out there betting over a man to get 14 to 15 rebounds a game. If anybody could do it in the league this year, it's him. We've also seen Rudy dominate the boards as well in that sense, similarly, but not to the rate that Domas has. So I understand the fear that would come behind it, but the numbers all say to go under in this situation. I do like an under in this game. I think we talked about that a little bit with your Mavs money line. I was mentioning I still like under 233.5 for these two teams and the way that they've been playing. I mean, even last night with Denver, we saw the Denver Dallas. We saw them start really, really hot and then super slow it down. But Utah also was trying to make sure they lose. So either way, let me move on to my first one here, which I imagine will be a pretty popular prop for people today, which is D'Angelo Russell. I would guess that people who are only looking at his matchup history against the Bucks and saw him drop 44 points against them recently are going to target his points. I'm going to go back to old reliable when LeBron is out with D'Lo, and that is his assists. You can still get it over 7.5. I think it's worth a small ladder to the 10 as well for him to get the double in this one if you want to play that. He's the point guard, man. Once LeBron sits, it's really, a lot of that pick and roll action with AD, with his wing players, mainly at this point, Austin Reeves out on the wing as shooters, right? And that's, I think, going to be the case once again against the Milwaukee Bucks defense that has dropped a bit and is just at the very least is weakest against this exact type of player, which is a dude who can pull up off the dribble, a ball handler in the pick and roll, above the break shooter. That's exactly why the Bucks give up so many points to D'Lo's scoring profile, to point guards in general, and D'Lo becomes the true point guard in this sense with the ball in his hands a ton. He's averaging 17 potential assists in 36 minutes with LeBron out this season in those 9 games, over the 7.5 in all 9. He's averaging nearly 11 in those 36 minutes as well. He's up there in most passes received, most passes made as soon as LeBron is out, because he's standing at the top of the key as the point guard. And if the action doesn't work when he sets it up, then they reset back to him, and he's got the ball in his hands once more. So yeah, as far as assists from Milwaukee, they do give those up, and to point guards especially, they've been in the bottom 10 all season, allowing assists to the opposing point guard. So everything here screams D'Lo. It's almost too chalky, but it's just gonna. I think there are going to be enough situations for him to score with the ball in his hands, as much as it is, that this is a good bet.
Yeah, I mean that's the direct correlation. Is just he's going to be taking up that usage in terms of playmaking. With LeBron out, man, yeah, Dame not a very good defender at the point of attack. So sure, let's target it. I mean, D'Lo and AD in the 2 main games should be how the Lakers are attacking this defense, which has been very strong otherwise. And I think that's why I like the under in the game. But I think he should have plenty of opportunities to get some assists just working with AD down there. We'll go Zion Williamson over 32.5 points and rebounds, which is minus 120. Not great odds here. If you want great odds, you can take him to get 8 boards, which is still like plus 115 because he's landed on 7 now in 3 of his last 4. Hasn't quite gotten over the hump, but the rebounding opportunities have been there. And it's a good matchup against OKC, a team that has struggled rebounding in particular against an explosive type of athlete like Zion, who his last 4 against OKC, averaging 25 points, 8 boards. Last time out, he went 20, 10, and 8. He shot 7 for 20 from the field, so did not get you over this prop because he didn't score as much, but there was no Brandon Ingram in that game. So the usage is encouraging that if he's going to get 20 field goal attempts in that matchup without Ingram, and now he gets the same situation here, on top of the fact that he was kind of unleashed as point Zion. Earlier this month, we talked about he topped this number in 6 straight, and then went under against at Orlando and at Miami. 2 just like gross, choppy, tough defenses to play against, and then follows that up with a huge line against Detroit, which is not like to say big shakes, but the fact that you score 36 points on 14 shots against any NBA team is impressive. And so you look at his numbers in general without BI the last 2 seasons, 27 points per game, 7.5 rebounds versus 22.5, 6 rebounds. Usage rate goes up 3%, 2.5 more free throws, 4 more minutes per game. And OKC, on the road since the All-Star break has not been the same. I remember they were the number 1 defense on the road for a while in the middle of the season in January. On the road, in this smaller sample, they're allowing the 5th highest field goal percentage, also allowing the 10th most free throw attempts, and on the season allowing 11 rebounds to power forwards. So I mean, Chet is not necessarily a bulky guy. I think Zion will be able to push him around a little bit, and maybe the rebounds are even better because I don't think Jonas Valanciunas can stay out on the floor guarding Chet. So then Zion is kind of on defense, has to be that primary rebounder for New Orleans in a game where you like the under, and that might mean a few more rebounding opportunities.
Yeah, I do think if Zion is going to try on the boards, that's going to be a place that he definitely can dominate in this one. The Thunder have continued to be one of the worst rebounding teams, and there shouldn't be anybody that can box him out. So we'll see. I think that he would probably enjoy the idea of guarding Chet Holmgren as somebody that he knows that as soon as Chet steps inside the 3-point line, advantage Zion immediately. He can definitely keep up with him with the quickness, and then obviously you could probably make two Chets out of 1 Zion with the way that he has that extra bulk on him. So I'm going to close things out with an under for Jonathan Kuminga in that Dubs and Heat game. I think that the total is a bit fair. I want to say under on it, but it's pretty fair, to be honest, right at about 218.5. I think this game's right around 220, so it's not quite enough of an edge. But the Kuminga stuff, under 25.5 PRA. I mean, it was just the first place I was thinking about looking in general when I saw this matchup. For a couple of reasons. Now it's interesting because with Draymond back from his injury that he came back from in like the end of January, Kuminga's actually, he averages a few more points, but he's gotten more minutes, and his minutes started to increase right when Draymond started to come back at that point in time. Really for him, like the end of December. So like there wasn't that much time that he was playing with increased minutes. So it's my main point here is Draymond it has a huge impact on Kuminga's output, right? And so really what we're looking at is if with Draymond needing to play a bit more as the only dude really that I see as any kind of matchup for Bam Adebayo, then I gotta pin Draymond close to at least 30 minutes in this one, where we've seen him have some time off here and there, in the games where they need him to come up big, kind of like that Minnesota one. He's getting those minutes. Now we've got Trace Jackson Davis, who's questionable, and he has eaten into Kuminga's minutes in a way that's helped him go under. So that if he doesn't play, it's not quite as sure of a bet, but assuming that he does as a rook, like I didn't see the injury in that last game, and I know he played most of it, but the minutes are a big thing, and that's really what I come down to is like if Kuminga's playing anywhere but like less than 30 minutes, I don't like this number against a really good interior defense for him, right? Last time he played, he was in the similar kind of matchup where he was having a lot of Triple J and Bam guarding him. Sorry, Triple J being Jaime Jaquez Jr. for those who actually don't know him as that. Jaquez Jr. was the one guarding him for the majority of the game, and then they threw Bam on him as well and Draymond wasn't in that game. So when TJD was out, that just meant more Bam on Jonathan Kuminga, which was certainly not good for his output. And his rebounds in general, like he's down to about 7.5 rebound chances per game. That's why the rebounds are all the way down to 4.5. The assists are all the way down to 2.5. And I still wouldn't take over in that, as he's at about 3 to 4 potential assists per game in general over his last 10. And we've seen the rotation just with everybody back, including Wiggins, including Draymond, all these dudes being back in the lineup as they missed a bunch of time over the last couple months. That's meant Jonathan Kuminga is right at 28 minutes. That's really become his ceiling with a few 30-minute outputs in there as well. But as soon as those dudes have been back, Wiggins came back about a week and a half ago, they're dipping directly into his usage rate and his potential. So when you look at him capped at 30 minutes, he's gone under this in 6 of his last 9 since Draymond returned from that injury. What he needs to do in terms of Kuminga is get to the basket. As we know, he has not been shooting threes very well at all, or very much at all over the course of the last 3 weeks or so, whereas he was shooting above his pay grade. At one point, he was taking 4 of them and making 1.5 to 2 a game, and that's well above his abilities. Not a 50% 3-point shooter, obviously. So it was that small sample size, and I don't think the offensive rebounds will be there for him. Not that he's been attacking the glass, so I don't know how he's gonna get buckets just trying to drive to the rim and play bully ball against this Heat team.
Yeah, that's not how you beat the Heat for sure. And they've been playing slow and limiting opponents to the second fewest field goal attempts at home since the All-Star break. So there's just not going to be a ton of possessions here. I mean, I'm looking at 7.5 rebounds and assists as something he's gone under pretty consistently when he faces a physical team. He went over it against Indy and the Memphis G Leaguers here, but otherwise he's been under that. And so maybe if that gives you better juice than combining with the points, you look that route because he's not going to be a playmaker that much against this Miami Heat team, I don't think. And the rebounds are going to be, the offensive rebounds are not going to be there. We'll see how many defensive bounces way, but Josh has dug into those rebounding chances and said not that many.
Yep. 100%. So yeah, the rebound chance coast to coast show here on today as we look at taking some unders on these guys. But that is all the time we have for you. Continue to follow along, subscribe to that page if you would, and check out the best bets video with some sides and totals in addition to these player props. Until we see you next, happy betting.